Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and welcome to the first session of the second day of this virtual itikaf program. Today, inshallah Azawajal, Ustad Majid will be covering a brief theory of the Miraj alongside the methodology of the Lataif. And this methodology of Lataif, inshallah Azawajal, it will be a core factor throughout the rest of this 10-day itikaf period. So inshallah, I invite everyone to concentrate, to remove any distractions and focus on this session. One way and one tip that I can give for this is if a person gets any distracting thoughts, then one tip that you can adopt is to bring yourself back into the majlis and focus attentively to what the Ustad is mentioning and delivering. So inshallah, one piece of advice also is if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. And if you have any, if there's any interaction with Ustad Majid, then please use the chat function. Also, as after Maghrib tonight will be an odd night, also Ustad Majid will be covering the Laylatul Qadr Amals, so we can inshallah benefit if the night is the night of Qadr. So without further ado, I would like to invite forward Ustad Majid to begin the first session. Jazakallah khairan wa ahsana jazaa.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ayyuhan nabi. Brothers, sisters, viewers from across the globe, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As Brother Jabir set out, inshallah, I'm going to be with you for the next hour and a half or so, and I'm going to cover three key aspects. One is going to be just briefly bringing us into focus as to what the purpose or one of the purposes of this itikaf is around the spiritual journey. I will briefly cover the Miraj of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to give us some context around our spiritual journey, the ascensions that we're going to be learning. But most importantly, I'm going to focus on the method of how one's spirit transfers each other so it can traverse the other realm. So those are the key aspects. And so at the beginning, I mean, there may be some theory, and I don't propose to spend too much time on that. It's just to give all the participants a brief overview. The focus, and I repeat, the focus will be on the method, inshallah. So inshallah, before I launch into the first session, can I just ask, so alhamdulillah, there's a number of participants that we have. As Brother Jabir said, if you have any questions, use the Q&A function. And if I ask any questions, then please respond in the chat function. That way I can monitor what's happening. So inshallah, can I first ask, if you can hear me, can you please raise your hands or just respond in the chat function? So I understand everyone can hear me. Okay, so far I've got one person that can hear me. So if you can hear me, either raise your hand or respond in the chat function. Okay, alhamdulillah. Good. Okay, so we have 100+ participants, so that's perfect. So inshallah, the first thing I'm going to set out or go through is just give us all some context as to why we're here. And one of the objectives of why we're here, actually, so you went through with Imam Qais yesterday. He gave some context about the itikaf. He gave some context about your ultimate objective, i.e. attaining and seeking the pleasure of Allah. But how do you do that? I.e. that you will be given a method in how you can attain that pleasure. But this specific or particular focus now will be on your spiritual ascension, i.e. the spiritual Miraj. And the objective for that is going to be seeing and tasting, i.e. you having an experiential experience with your own spirit. So not reading or relying on someone else's experience or reading the books of old. Here you will, inshallah, be given that particular, or you will be taught that particular experience so you can experience it for yourself. And what will this cover? So inshallah, it will cover the spiritual ascension, which I'm going to focus on. And then for the rest of the afternoon sessions, there will be particular practice sessions and practical sessions where what we're going to learn now is going to be where that's going to be demonstrated. And then one of the things that you see now is the Muraqabah dua. So you've done that. You've had the method taught to you, and there's also been we conducted that yesterday or at the Durood Majlis. And then one of the other apex of what's going to be taught is going to be the spiritual salah. And the spiritual salah is going to be the other focus of this particular itikaf. So there's going to be a focus on connecting you with your salah. So not only does your salah benefit you, but it should be benefiting you outside your salah. And what does that mean? And I anchor it back to the comments that were made at the beginning, that if the salah is supposed to keep people away from sin, you establish salah in your life, and you're going to understand how is that done, coupled with having a experience during your salah, i.e. making it truly a miraj of the believer. And this is something I'm just going to show you now, which isn't going to be covered on this particular retreat, but it's something that is covered on other retreats or kind of higher level retreats, and that is the Muraqabah Muhammadiyah. And that is how your spirit has an engagement with the best of the best, the beloved of Allah Azza wa Jal, none other than the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the peak of one's iman. So that's just a brief introduction or overview of what you can expect from the spiritual element of this itikaf, the retreats that we are doing and what's being conducted. So what I'm going to now so one of the things that's come up a couple of times in questions, and this is, again, it goes back to your mode of thinking, i.e. giving you a mindset change, which is, there is some theory, but the fundamental purpose of what we are going to do is going to be around your practical abilities, i.e. the practical aspect of how you can do the spiritual ascension. And so one of the ways to understand that is that when you come to any particular course or when you go to any particular class, there has to be what we say, leave everything at the door. i.e. the analogy that's always given, both Islamically and secularly, is that if you have a glass and it is full of water, if you put anything else into that glass, it's just going to overrun. i.e. it can't learn anything further. Now, even before we get to that, if the glass is the wrong way around, full stop, it just can't receive anything, full stop. So firstly, the mindset change, the right approach to get into the mode of receiving, that is effectively turning the glass the right way up. So that's fine. Now we're the right way up, everyone. And then the other piece is actually we're the right way up, we have the right approach. The fact that you have all registered for the itikaf suggests that actually you're here in a mode of receiving. But the other issue that we have is the cup's actually not empty. So it's still full. And what do I mean by that? Is that we come with, which is somewhat expected. We may have heard things about spiritual experiences. We may have heard things, how spiritual journeys are undertaken, methods, plethora of things. You're all, mashallah, much more learned than I am. So you would have so much more that you understand. But that knowledge, that understanding has to be left at the virtual door, that virtual itikaf door. Because here, the method that we're going to be teaching, the manner in which it's going to be taught, is going to be as set out by Shaykh Ahmed Dabal, i.e. the way he's set out the method. And that's no different from anyone going to a doctor, i.e. going to a GP, that you go and you take the prescription that he gives based on his method, his understanding. You can't go to different doctors and then mix and match. It just doesn't work like that. And the reason why I mention this now is to get you in the right mindset and the right mode, because the bit that I'm going to now share with you is the main guide? Who is our guide on this course? And our guide is Sheikh Ahmed Dabag. And you can see there the kind of the biographies that we have for all sheikhs and so forth, which is good, alhamdulillah, in terms of the traditional sciences, the secular sciences, the work that they're doing across the globe. But you can look into that. That's not something that you necessarily need me to say. But the main thing, though, the main takeaway for you and for me is actually that this, as they are the teacher of this course, fundamentally, they are going to be our guide across the spiritual ascension. So there needs to be an understanding that for these purposes, for this iddiqah, for these spiritual experiences, they are our teacher. Yes? No different from when you go from, so you have many teachers in your life. Your parents are your first and foremost teachers. Then you go on to school, primary school, you have different teachers. Then you go into secondary school, then you go to university, and then you have lecturers. And then for those who go beyond, whether it's your masters, I mean, I studied the bar exam, so and then my chartered exams. Each level, you have different teachers, and at each stage you go, you have to then base effectively you're submitting to each teacher that you have to get you through to that next stage. You don't rely on your primary school teacher to get you through your university lectures. Yeah. Equally, I didn't rely on my university knowledge to get me through to my bar exams. So there's no difference here. The focus here is that actually this is the individual, this is the person that knows the knowledge, the roadmap that we're going to be following. So they are our focus, our guide for effectively the next 8 days that remain. And particularly, I repeat, particularly when we do the ascension and when I go through the methodology. Why? Because one of the core components of the method is that when you are taught how to transfer your spirit, it needs a guide. It needs to find someone that is going to take it to the next level and around and into the spiritual realm. So you need to know who that guide is now, so that we don't have these questions coming up subsequently or any conflict. Yeah. So that is the focus there. So I'm going to just move on. Many of you would have seen this. Sheikh Ahmed Dabag, inshallah. And they have one of the slots later as well, inshallah, that many of you are focusing on. Now, all the trainers that are teaching you, all the trainers that are facilitating effectively, are all done under supervision of and the tutor Sheikh Ahmed Dabag. So to give you the comfort that actually it's all going back to the same person who understands, who knows, who developed this particular journey, inshallah. So on that note, I'm just going to briefly open up to any questions that anyone may have, just on that note. Good, alhamdulillah. So using the chat function, is that all understood? Just raise your hands, please, from the 100+ participants. Good, alhamdulillah. Inshallah. Mashallah. Okay, good. So now I'm going to move on to the next aspect. Okay, there are some. Yes. So some of the questions are just confirming or affirming what I've just mentioned. You know, someone asked, "How does the teacher help you in the journey of ascension?" It's a really good question. First and foremost, they help you because they're the ones that devise this journey. So first and foremost, I discover the route on which we take. Obviously, the spiritual journey is something that we follow in the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the focus here is that they are your guide. That's how they help you. I mean, you don't just turn up one day and you sit in a car and someone gives you the keys and you start driving. Just does not happen. It's completely and utterly nonsensical. Nowhere in our lives do we just turn up to do anything, whether it's studying, whether it's doing something practical. We always have someone that teaches us, someone that knows the path, someone that's done walked that path or traversed that path themselves. So they're the ones that are teaching you. Just so let's keep it very simple. That's exactly how it works from the teacher. Okay, so now inshallah, I'm going to move on to the next section. Now this is going to give you an overview of the Miraj, or the journey, or the seerah of the Prophet of Allah. Now, like I said, this particular aspect is going to be theory, and the reason I say that is because I'm going to give you an overview. So I'm not going to go through each and every slide. So I'm telling all the participants that now, because when because the nature of Huz is that when we see slides, what do? We pick up our pens and we start scribbling and scribbling and scribbling. You don't need to do that here. When there's something that's worth taking note, I will tell you to take note, or I will say to you that actually we're either going to cover it again, or whether we're going to cover it again, or I'm going to set out specifically what it is that the takeaway is for that. So rest assured, you don't need to take any notes for what I'm going to cover now. It's just to give you an overview of the journey of the Prophet and where our spiritual ascension fits into all of this. And then the key focus that I'm going to have is going to be on what? On the method of how to transfer your spirit. Now, one of the other things is that there are how many slots in this Ittaqaf? Use the chat function, please. How many slots are there in this Ittaqaf? 4. MashaAllah. 4. Good. Okay, so that means everyone's been paying attention. There are 4 slots. Now, all of these 4 slots are covering something, but they all come together. What do? They all come together. So it's a holistic Ittaqaf. So there's bits that I'm going to be speaking about. So I'm going to give you an overview of the journey of the Prophet of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. One of those pieces that I'm going to speak about is the physical journey, the outward journey, the purification journey. Now, that's not going to be covered in this slot, but it will be covered in one of the Ittaqaf slots. Yes, just like you had the methodology of Muraqabah Dua being covered elsewhere, I'm going to be covering the Lataifs, or the transfer, the method of transferring the spirit here. Someone else will be covering the purification. All of it then will come together in terms of giving you the holistic approach of how this is conducted. So don't worry, because I know some of the comments, the chats have come up, but actually should I be doing this element? It all comes together, inshallah. So on that note, I'm going to now bring up the next piece. So again, can I just check, can everyone see the presentation? Remember, use the chat function to respond and questions to ask. Yeah, okay, good, alhamdulillah, everyone can see that. So let me just get my own face out of the way. Now remember, can I just stress this piece? At any point, and actually I want you to respond to this because some of the questions that have come up are pertinent to this point I'm going to make. During this journey, as have we said that this spiritual ascension, whatever we're doing in this Ittaqaf, is one of the prerequisites that you have to be a scholar? Yes or no? No. Yes. Okay, perfect. Have we said to you that you need to have studied any particular Islamic text? No. Thank you. There are, so because one of the questions that someone's asked, and it's a good question to ask actually, and I'm grateful that the question was asked, which was actually there is no prerequisite in terms of your knowledge or your level of purification. The entire purpose of this Ittaqaf is to take you from where you are, whether that's on 0 or to up from 10, up to being a hero. That's literally what we're about. Yeah, we don't expect it to happen overnight, going from 0 to hero, but we are. Everything that you need to know will be given to you during this Ittaqaf. But even more importantly, because going back to the mode and the mindset that we have, which is the mindset, the way to learn, are you making sure your cup to the right way around, is actually the mode for this itikaf, the thing that underlies or is the thread throughout, is that actually we take the prophetic approach. The approach that Shaykh Ahmad Dabar constantly re-emphasizes is that actually the Prophet came to prince and he came to pauper. He came to the educated and to the unlettered. Yes, he didn't have a prerequisite for anyone to become close to Allah. Yes, not all the companions were scholars, only a few were that gave fatwas and so forth. But all of the companions were friends of Allah, were all awliya, were all of that station, whether they worked in the fields or whether they were a scholar. So that tells you straight away from the beginning that actually getting close to Allah, becoming this supreme slave of Allah, this beacon of beauty, of prophetic character, is there for everyone. So there's no prerequisite in terms of knowledge, etc. Where there is certain prerequisites or anything like that, again, you're told, you're going to be taught those on this course, inshallah. So I hope that alleviates the situation for everyone. So I'm just going to amend my, there we go. So now everyone should be able to see the presentation, inshallah. So the spiritual journey. I'm not going to read everything, but I'm just going to give you context. And there's a reason why I mentioned that, because I have the habit as well that when I see something in a slide, I want to read it all, I want to cover it all, etc. But the key piece of the spiritual journey is to allow you to enter the divine presence, you know, and to attain the closeness of Allah. And we're going to go into more detail about that, inshallah. So as I was saying, there's two aspects to the life of the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's the physical aspect, i.e. the outward, which we commonly refer to as a seerah. That's the life of the Prophet, the biography, and the physical traits of the Prophet. And it's through that journey, the physical journey, that we come across, i.e. from the seerah, what we learn about human beings. We learn about where we came from, our journey, where we began, and where we will go. Now, I'm not going to go through that because that's going to be covered in one of the slots, but just to give you the overview and to give you that perspective. And then after that, we part of the physical journey gives us the understanding of our covenant that we took with our Lord, because we surely have to know why we're here on this earth. That's what the journey of man, that's the physical aspect of the Prophet, we understand and we learn from that, i.e. the covenants that we took. What's a covenant? It's an agreement. It's something that's bound us, i.e. that it's like an oath that we said to Allah that He is our Lord, that we will follow Him freely, using our free will, not because we're obligated to. And not only that, we also testify to say that we will not follow who? The one that is our open enemy. The one that says that he comes from front, he will come from behind, from the right and to the left of us. That is, we also said that we weren't going to follow him. So that gives us that understanding. And that's what the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did throughout his entire life. All his entire life was focused on how do you and me respond or traverse this life physically? How do we ensure that every step, that every time I interact with anyone or anything, that I do so in a manner which is pleasing to Allah physically, that I am using my tongue in a manner which will be worshipping Ibadat or following the way of Allah and as decreed by Allah and the way of the Prophet, and to make sure I'm not using or conducting myself in a way that would deem me as following the way of Shaitan. So then we come, and this is where you're going to again be taught across the slots, which is actually so the physical journey. So how do we bring ourselves aligned with that of the Prophet? I.e., how do I ensure that my tongue, that my eyes, ears, hands, etc., are all going to be aligned with the physical traits of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in how I conduct myself, and this speaks about, correcting what we refer to as the preconditions, i.e. ensuring, and these happen in parallel. It doesn't mean that you have to do one before you can do something else. You're learning it together, holistically, you take each thing together. So correcting your beliefs, and it's very simple. We're not here to have Aqidah wars. We're not here about theology wars or Aqidah discussions, the things that, or moon wars, as they say. We're into, there are people still now, we're going to be the last 10 nights of Ramadan, the most supreme of the supreme nights in the Islamic calendar in our lives, and people will spend so much time arguing about the moon and so forth, and not actually understanding and missing the entire purpose of actually what is why are we here. And this is the journey, the life of the Prophet. You first understand the journey of the human soul, the belief, correcting your belief, understanding the do and don'ts. What is that? It's very simple. How do I worship Allah? What's the correct method of worshiping Allah? And the belief is very simple. How do I believe in Allah? And the example that's very common is that someone can believe in the Tawheed of Allah, i.e. understanding Allah, that He is one, that He is not begotten, etc. But they turn up to a church and they start going like this, and they start, something's not right. That means they're understanding how to practice, i.e. the fiqh is wrong, but their belief is right. Equally, someone could turn up to a masajid and pray perfectly. On the outward, their prayer is spot on, as they say. However, their belief is, billah, that Allah is begotten, etc. So their belief isn't right, but the outward worship is perfectly correct. So all we're doing is just bringing those in line. Let's just know your basics in terms of believing Allah is one, believing in the angels, believing in the books, believing in predestiny, believing in the day of judgment, etc. And then the fiqh is just knowing actually, what are the basics of how I can perform wudu, what are the basics of how I pray salah, and that's it. And most basic of fiqh will get you through 99% of your life. I have yet to come across a situation in my life or anyone else's where they've come and they've had to do wudu in a particular water, and they need to know the composition to find out, is it najasa, is it unclean? Not, that's not relevant. For you, for me, all we need to know are the basics. That will get us through 90% of our life. Then the other point is to understand repentance. And this, again, it will be taught to you. What is tawbah? It has conditions to it. And what does the conditions really mean? It's just a method. It's just, rather than just saying, Allah forgive me, astaghfirullah. No, let's just do this properly. Let's understand what it is to ask for forgiveness. Let's ask for forgiveness properly. Let's have that kind of reflection on that. And then finally, the striving piece, which is really important, which you accept that this journey is going to go like this: up, down, up, down. We're going to get up, we're going to fall, but we need to have the mujahidah, the strive to get up again and carry on. Just like when you're riding a bike, when you're teaching someone to ride a bike, they fall. They have to. If a kid at the first fall says, "I'm never riding a bike again," they're just never going to ride, are they? Whereas it's the ones that get up again. It's an acceptance. You're going to fall, you get up, you try a bit more, and that will help you in your journey, inshallah. Okay, so then. And this is what I was talking about. So part of this journey will require someone, i.e. the physical aspect of the Prophet, i.e. to ensure that your tongue is in line with the tongue of the Prophet, i.e. did the Prophet ever lie with his tongue? No, absolutely not. No, hasha. This did not happen. What did the Prophet's eyes, etc. We want to bring our eyes, aligning them with the Prophet. And there's two ways that you do this, i.e. your organs. One is you first stop doing negative usage with your tongue. You stop the backbiting, you stop the lying, etc., etc. And there's a method that will be taught on how you do that. So the first time you do that, that's stage one, i.e. you've now brought some of your tongue in line with the Prophet, because the Prophet, Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, didn't backbite, didn't lie, etc., etc. So that's one stage. And the next stage is now using your tongue in a positive way, i.e. the way the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, i.e. always speaking in a way that would look to help people, etc., etc. And then that will continue. And then after that, so that the body is stage 1, and then you have a stage where you purify your mind to make sure that you're someone that's positive thoughts, not thinking that, oh, everyone in the world is out to do me, that so much stems from that. So you come to a view, and it's possible. We at the moment in the UK, we have what's called mental well-being, and there's things that myself I've taught, taken directly from the teaching of Shaykh Ahmad Dabad, in terms of how do we make ourselves a positive people to deal with, and it will cure so much issues such as anxiety, the negative outlook, and it has an impact across your life. How is it that someone like the Prophet of Allah went through what he went through, which we all know about, we all hear the nasheeds and the naats, but how is it that throughout all of that he still had a good opinion of his Lord, and he had a good opinion of people, that he was constantly positive? That's why 1400 years later, you and I are able to say Ashhadu la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul, based on that mindset. And then we'll look to purify your soul, i.e. your emotional self. But that those kind of those desires of anger, of lust, all that type of stuff. How do we one direct it in the right way, and how do we purify it so it has desires for goodness, etc. And what will this lead to? Enlightenment. And then the whole purpose of this will be, how will it be manifested? How do you and I know that we're purified, or what are the traits? Because I won't know that until the day of judgment. But the traits of such people are that you notice that they begin to give preference to Allah, i.e. His commands over everything else. They begin to give preference to the Prophet and his Sunnah over other ways. And you notice that they have compassion upon creation. And what does compassion upon creation mean? These aren't words just go away and think, oh, that's lovely, guess what I learned, I'm going to have compassion upon creation. But what does it mean? In essence, it has a reality, which is that you fulfill the rights of creation and you don't exact your own rights. And then being in the presence of Allah, and they all feed into everything, because your tongue has to be in the presence of Allah for the tongue not to commit sin or not to lie. Yes, so see how the preference to Allah, the preference to the Prophet, compassion and presence of Allah, they're all intertwined. So, and that's what you do. We're trying to bring each bit of your organ into the presence of Allah, mindful of Allah, mindful of His, giving preference to Him, Sunnah, etc. Then and then build it up to your mind and so forth, inshallah. And that will be taught on the course. And this just gives you a snapshot. And I'm just checking the questions that are coming through. There's one question that's come through which I will answer at the right time. I like the question. And then we come to the spiritual aspect. Now this is going to be our focus. And this is the apex of the spiritual world, or the spiritual experience, in the context of the life of the Prophet, was the ascension, i.e. the Miraj, the night journey to the heavens and to the Lord of the heavens, i.e. by the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so just as a biography in the life of the Prophet, the ascension is a model for us, i.e. that's our spiritual advancement, and it serves as universal spiritual map. So the spiritual journey that the Prophet went through, the Isra and Miraj, the night journey from Mecca to Masjid al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, and then so that was the Isra, that's the night journey, and then the Miraj was from Masjid al-Aqsa all the way up through the heavens, various stations, various interactions the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had with different personalities, different prophets, saw so much. Some of it, we've only been given a sneak preview into tiny elements of what happened on that blessed journey. So inshallah, and then I'm going to come to why is that important? What does spiritual ascension mean to you and I? So let me just stop sharing for a moment. So I've given the overview broadly of the physical aspect. Now we're going to look at the spiritual piece, and for us to just understand that have this spiritual experience? What is the purpose? And it goes back to there's certain levels of belief that we have. And the slides will talk about a number of those beliefs. I think we'll talk about 7 yaqeens, experiences. And the Quran speaks about the 3 of the ones that I'm going to mention, which is having ilmul yaqeen, i.e. knowledge. We have, so ilmul yaqeen is having knowledge, certainty and knowledge. And then you have ainul yaqeen, i.e. that which you've seen. And then haqqul yaqeen, that the truth of which you've experienced. And I'm going to give this analogy of each of those. And why have those? What's the purpose? What someone could ask the question, and in fact I think someone may have asked the question, what's so important about having these experiences? And the answer is in the Quran, when Ibrahim alayhi salam asked Allah Azza wa Jal about how he would resurrect people on the Day of Judgment. That's a prophet of Allah. Halilul Allah is what we say of Ibrahim alayhi salam. What does Halilul Allah mean? Most people define it as a friend of Allah. It's actually more than a friend. It's someone that has close and intimate relationship, proximity to Allah. So if that's a prophet that has such proximity to Allah Azza wa Jal, and he is asking Allah, Ya Allah, how, I just want to know, how will you resurrect on the Day of Judgment? Oh Ibrahim, do you not believe? Do you not have yaqeen? And what was the response of our blessed father, Ibrahim alayhi salam, through which so many prophets came, through which the lineage of which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, the best of the best? His response was, of course Allah, I believe, but I want to increase my belief. Why? Because it motivates people more. You have a level of belief, and you absolutely people do, but you want to increase that belief. And so we all know that amazing story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and that amazing story was what? That Allah said to him to take 4 birds. How many birds? 4 birds. And once you take those 4 birds, rear them. So 4 little birds, he reared them till they were older, fully fledged. So he took them as fledglings. And then what happened? He was then commanded to kill them, to zabah them, I think is probably the term. And then not just to do that, then to get them and then to mix up all the 4 birds, all their body parts with each other, mash them up totally, and then place each of them on 4 mountains in Makkah, on 4 different corners. And after doing so, once he did all of that, then he was told to call them. And what happened was these 4, rods of mush, effectively, on 4 different mountains, squished, squashed, organs, beaks, whatever it was, whatever way they were, they all came up and they reformed to the right bird and they came to him. Now, can you imagine the increase in Iman, the increase in faith, the motivation that would give an individual? It's incredible. So if anyone has that question, always come back. The answer is in the Quran, and the exchange is there between Allah and his Halil. So I'm now going to go back to the slides, inshallah. So there's 7 stated knowledges of yaqeen. I'm not going to go through all of them because I'm just going to, because I mentioned the 3 key ones. I'm going to go through the examples. So this is they're simple examples, but they make the point. One is the knowledge of certainty. It's like being told about something. So someone says to me, a reliable source says to me, there's a fire in the forest. Okay, I've got no reason not to believe them. They've told me the truth on previous occasions. They're a reliable individual. And I say, yeah, okay, that's fine. But that's belief in knowledge. That's what someone's told me. Then I go to that forest. Yeah. And when I go to the forest from afar, I see the fire. Now I've had ainul yaqeen, certainty of sight. I've seen it myself. I've experienced that. My eyes have experienced the forest on fire. And the next level of yaqeen is the reality of certainty. And this is like being in the forest fire and feeling the heat. Yeah. Now that's haqqul yaqeen. You not only Are you seeing it? You're experiencing it. You're experiencing the heat. You're experiencing that reality. So those are the 3 levels of certainty. And what is this course looking to do? What are you and I'll keep making this point because it holds you to account and it holds me to account. What do I mean? By the facilitator's job is to show you the method. Your job is to follow the method and have the experience. You have it, not me. Yes? I'm concerned about you having the experience, you walking away with an anal yaqeen, seeing something from the other realm. Now, someone asked a question earlier about, did the companions have, do the spiritual journey or have these experiences, etc. It's like asking the question, and so it's like, did the companions, were they purified? It's a rhetorical question. So were they pure? Of course they were. Did they have the right belief? Of course they did. Was it a process? Yes, it was. So, the Prophet spent time within Mecca. It wasn't worship at that point. It was just understanding Allah, understanding the Day of Judgment. So they brought their that in line. Yes, that was totally and utterly brought in line for them. Their thinking, their belief system. So that was what was done. And then did they have spiritual experiences? Absolutely. We're teaching you a method, just like the facilitators, the trainers, the ustads will do the physical method, like how to purify your tongue, etc. The method may be different, or the way that we brought it, or way that it's been designed to make it simple for you. But of course, that's a process that all of them went through, all the companions. They didn't just wake up one day. Umar radiallahu anh wasn't Umar radiallahu anh. We all know his story. It's the most famous story. Where was he just before he became Muslim? What was he coming to do? So there was a process. Now, equally with the spiritual piece, there absolutely is. There's the famous hadith of Ibn Haritha radiallahu anh. Ibn Haritha. I may be wrong, but one of the companions, in terms of name, that is, came to the Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal. He was walking into the streets of Medina, and he comes, and while he's walking in the streets of Medina, he comes across the Prophet of Allah. Firstly, imagine that sight, to be there, walking that blessed sight, and then to meet what's before you, the Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the Prophet says, "Oh Haritha, how are you? How do you find yourself today?" And he said, "Oh Allah," he goes to the Prophet, "Ya Rasulullah." He goes that I find myself, and I'm paraphrasing. He goes, "I see the arsh of Allah before me. I see that which is to the right of it and that which is to the left of it." And he carries on. And he's saying, and he's not saying I saw, he's saying I see. He's not saying I imagined. I see the arsh of Allah before me, that which is to the right of it and that which is to the left of it. And he carries on. And the Prophet said, "Now you've tasted," or something to that effect. "Now you've got it. Hold on to this." So in answer to your question, absolutely, the companions had spiritual experiences, and constantly. Some could see Jibreel alayhi salam when he used to come to see the Prophet. Some couldn't. So each of the companions had their own experiences, and then they all and so this is something that we should be yearning for. And then after this companions, we know of the Tabi'een, and then Tabi'een, and then we of the books of the greatest of scholars that have walked or faced this earth. They all are anchored in spirituality. Even Imam Bukhari, if you people talk about his text, but do you talk about how he conducted himself to when he did the Sahih Bukhari? You had across the world people study Arabic grammar, the Arjumiyya. Yeah, the Arjumiyya, when it was completed, the author placed the book on top of the Kaaba and left it there for 1 year and said, if it's accepted, Allah keep it preserved. For 1 year, it rained, it wind, everything came to it. And after a year, he went and he picked it up. So spiritual experiences are inbound and part of our being. Absolutely, intrinsically molded into our faith, inshallah. And this itikaf, not only will you be taught about the physical, the do's, the don'ts, how to purify yourself in a methodical way, but also to have a spiritual ascension, spiritual experience, so that before we die, we can experience what the people before us have experienced. And why not? Why do we sit there like defeatists and say, why can't we have this experience? Why do I have to hear it through a nasheed or a naat? Is this not our faith? Is it not your faith? Are you not equally entitled to it? The Prophet brought it for all of us. So each of us shouldn't be, we kind of sit there with this defeatist attitude. That's why we're saying in this lockdown, you're going to unlock your spirit. We're going to come and we're going to demand our faith, and we're going to understand the method on how to do so, inshallah. So I hope that answers some of the questions that are coming through. So let me just go back to the slide. So those are the 3 levels of yaqeen that we're going to focus on. This is the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam that I mentioned. So so the objectives, I mentioned to you what one of the key things are. But when you have a spiritual experience, it goes the degrees. It raises your belief to a higher level. And look at the explanation that's given in the slide. The belief on the reality upon which a Muslim already believes. Like the existence of Allah, the Exalted, the prophets, the unseen reality. We believe in all of this. Please use the chat function. Brothers and sisters, do we believe in all of these spiritual realities? Do we believe that there's an angel on my right and an angel on my left? Do we believe in Raqib and Atid? Yes, we do. When you go to the toilet, what's the supplication that you make or should make? What are you asking refuge in? Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from the foul male and female jinns. So that means that there's a spiritual reality that when we go to those places, there are other, there are people, entities from the unseen realm that are there. That's why we have these supplications. So it's core part of our belief system. And yes, absolutely. Much like someone just said the supplication as well. So that's fundamentally part of our belief. So what this is doing is saying to you, so rather than it just being a litany, that I believe in the Day of Judgment, I believe in Allah, I believe in the books, I believe in the Prophet, you're actually now saying, yes, I've seen it, I've had that experience. And what does that do? It increases you in love and obedience. Because what is it about the dunya? What is the one thing it gives you? What is it that we are all seeking? What do drugs, pornography, fornication, all of these things, what are good, there's halal manners and so forth, but what are they? They're all experiences, aren't they? Because human beings love an experiential experience. That's what we go to theme parks. Why? Because there's an experience that you have there. Why do TVs, the latest model, get better and better? Why is it surround sound? To make you feel like you're in the movie. 3D, 4D, so forth. Yeah? That's part of, the more of those experiences you have, the more stronger attachment is. Now that's for things that are related to the dunya. Let our spirit now attach to that which is going to return to. That's the fundamental purpose. In fact, that should suffice now for the rest of the theory, I think, from what I've just said. So I'm going to, actually, I think it should. So I'm going to just go through this quickly. The other objective, so one is to increases your belief in the unseen with Allah. The other is the proximity and closeness of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You achieve his presence. So again, that love that we hear about stories of the Prophet. Well, let's experience. We hear about stories that people have experienced of the Prophet to make you love him more. And what happens when you love and you experience this beloved personality? What are you going to do? What's going to be the result? Someone tell me on the chat function. If I have more of a stronger experience with the Prophet, what will it lead to? What do you think it will lead to? Inshallah, anyone on the chat function? Yes, someone asked him perfect. Becoming closer to him, emulating him. Absolutely, exactly closeness to Allah. But absolutely, what's it in terms of Prophet? What will it lead to you when you attach yourself? You have the experience of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It will make you follow him more, love him more, sacrifice more for him, so that on the Day of Judgment, we're there as part of his ummah that he can stand proud of. And this is the third piece, is around creation and its understanding. Look, so all of you can read, but let me just briefly paraphrase. It goes, it results in knowing that the creation of Allah is there, and to see and how the servant interacts with them. But it means that when you have an interaction with creation, you realize actually spiritually, that you can overcome some of the difficulties that you have with creation. For example, the Prophet Allah was with Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. They were walking and they came across a woman and she began to curse or say bad things to them. They were silent and she continued. And then Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, the foremost companion of the Prophet of Allah, then said something back. When he said something back, the response, the Prophet of Allah walked away. Then later on, Abu Bakr caught up with the Prophet of Allah and said to him that when she was speaking, cursing or doing me, you remained. But when I said something back, you left. And the Prophet of Allah said that when she was cursing you and you remained silent, I saw the angels answering on your behalf. Can you see that? That's his. So the interaction Abu Bakr was having with the creation is that someone's cursing him. But whilst he was silent, the angels were answering back. And the Prophet said, but when you started responding, the angel left and I saw Shaitan come. And me and Shaitan don't stay in the same place. SubhanAllah. See, that's and that will help. And then finally, what does it do? It makes you seek appreciation, not appreciation, but the fact that you do it all for Allah, for His infinite pleasure. That, as they say, the ends of all ends. That's what you want to do. Your spiritual experience will enhance your yaqeen to that level. So what, and this is a journey, the roadmap that I was speaking about. So you had the prophetic ascension from Masjid al-Aqsa, and then you have the 11 spiritual entities, but we're going to be focusing on 7. So you have, and then the ascension up to Masjid al-Aqsa, and then you come to the realm of the barzakh. What is that? That's the intermediary world between this world and the hereafter. And so let me just run through. So you go to the first sky, second, third. You come to the heavenly Kaaba, the dome of the barzakh, and then you come to the realms and the stations of the heavens. And some of you may just heard about these: the Lot tree, station of Tawheed, station of presence, station of closeness. In each of these stations, people, your spirit can travel and it can learn, and it can be in certain types of servitude when you reach these stations. And it's for you to experience, not for me to just simply just put here, but this just gives you the overview. Then you come to the tablet, the pen. These are all stations. They have spiritual realities, the divine chair, and then you have beyond the divine chair, the divine throne, and there's levels and veils that you come across, the divine manifestations of mercy, and then the 70 veils, and then the world of Raqa, and the station of excellence, the house of Allah, subhanAllah, then station of servanthood. I mean, this just sounds amazing. Not sounds amazing. Why don't you experience it? The station of Abadiyah. These are like the pinnacles of being an Abid, a pinnacle of being an Abdullah, a slave of Allah. We don't know what these mean until we experience them, really. MashaAllah, people are still coming through. So all these different stations, and then what does it all ultimately lead to? The pleasure of Allah. That's what we want. We want our Lord to be pleased with us. And then when the return journey, and you get given gifts when you come. So and what was a gift that the Prophet Allah got? Salah, for example. And all of these, you have certain stations that you are enhanced in. Your spirit is enhancing. Gifts that happen when you travel, you purify, and you do the ascension. And then you come to the station of Dawah, serving people, serving creation. That was the prophetic life. That was the life of the prophets. And the station of Dawah, are you calling others? What can it be anything more than trying to protect someone from the hellfire, from saying to them, look, come back to your true nature. And this is just a complete overview of the journey. But take a look at this. Now, obviously, don't, like I said, it's not about for you to write it or take a snapshot and so forth. What it is for you to do, though, why am I giving it as an overview? Because it's for you to experience. There is no merit, there is no benefit of me, and listen to me carefully, let's take the station of Abadiyah. There is no benefit to you if someone speaks about their experience of the station of Abdiyah. How do you benefit? You don't. You will benefit if you experience it. Yes? That's the fun. How do you experience knowledge? You know, how do you benefit from knowledge? Someone can read a book to you, but you don't benefit from knowledge up until you act upon it. So that's why here, I'm not going through each of these stations to tell you, you experience it and then you tell me. You experience it and you tell the next person next to you. Let them see the manifestation, the impact of having these experiences, what it does to your life, how you conduct yourself, inshallah. So inshallah. So that brings that part to a close, inshallah. So what was that? That was what? Did I teach you anything practical there? Yes or no? Someone said this is endless. Yes, absolutely, it is endless. But I don't want it just to be in books. I want you to experience it. Shaykh Ahmad Dabag did this so that people, the ummah of the Prophet of Allah, could stand firm and say, actually, this is my faith. I want to experience it. Why shouldn't I? So now, the most, for me, this what I'm going to speak about now is going to be the most important bit. It's going to be the method on how this is done. So. Someone said something which is quite interesting. They said they find it hard to believe that this can be experienced. Yeah. Now the question is, what is it that's hard to believe? It shouldn't be hard to believe that people can experience this because that's part of our faith. Yes, spiritual experiences, karamat, these are part and parcel of our faith, as documented and as tested to. But what you should be saying is, what you're probably finding it hard to believe is that whether you can experience it. That's the bit that's probably difficult. And why? Have you asked yourself that question? Oh, is it because I'm not purified enough? Is it because, oh no, this isn't for me? Or is that kind of response that people have? You know, what the companions were in a certain place in their lives, and the Prophet took him to a certain place in their lives. I use the example of Umar radiallahu anh. What was he going to do when he became Muslim? What was he doing? What was his intention? Can you tell me that there's something more worse that you committed than what Umar radiallahu anh was planning to do? No, no one can. Nothing can be more worse than that. And now look how we speak about Umar radiallahu anh. Yes? Nothing is denying you and I that experience other than our belief. And the other thing, the reason you can't believe it, and I'm not saying you to that individual, it's to everyone, because lots of people will be having that. I'm glad that you raised the point. The reason you and I can't believe it is because you and I are thinking, it's our efforts. It's me. How can I do this? When we take that step back and understand that actually, ultimately, it's Allah that will give us experience. We rely on Allah, on His fadl. And when we begin to understand that in our lives, our mode of thinking begins to change. And you think, actually, nothing is from me, it's all from Allah. And then I pose a question to you all and say, is this not in the capacity of Allah for you to have this experience? And each and every single one of you will say, absolutely not. Nothing is not in the capacity of Allah. Allah can do anything. And if we believe that, then believe that Allah can ensure, if we rely on Him, He is the one that gives us the experience. I hope that answers the question. So now, inshallah, I'm going to go through, and this is a bit that as you probably noticed, I have two screens. I need to make sure I'm sharing the right one. Okay, so now we're going to go through the method. The method of what? It's the method of how your spirit will transfer. Now, what you just need to concern yourself. Now, I'm going to go through these. Now, there will be terms that I will use, whether it's Lataifs, etc. The purpose here is when you are being taught a method, when you're sitting in a car and someone's going to teach you how to drive, whether they call it a steering wheel or a clutch or a brake or the engine or the ignition, they can call it Robert, Peter, and Abdul for all you care. A steering wheel still functions as a steering wheel. A handbrake will still function as a handbrake. Now, I can sit in the car and my instructor can say to me, okay, so you need to find a biting point between the clutch and etc. And I can say, oh, that's really exciting. So what's the clutch about? Where did it come from? Where did the handbrake come from? And your instructor can look at you and think, what on earth has that got to do with anything? You just need to know that this is the method of how to drive. This is what the steering wheel does. This is what the clutch does. This is what the gears does. And this is what the handbrake does. And those of you who abide by what he says, those people will be flying, well, literally here, depending on how fast they drive their car in their car. That's exactly the case here. I'm not here to explain. I'm here to tell you the method. And that's why we go back to the point I said, this has been taught to us. So we just accept the terminology that I'm going to be using, but don't get confused with the terminology. It's just understanding the method. That's the key piece. So the methodology, we should go through the methodology for our spiritual experience. Now, so what do you need to do? There's certain amals that need to be done, and these will be picked up during the other slots. So first you need to make a firm intention that you will do the 5 amals. What are the 5 amals? I.e., you begin to purify your body. The muraqabah dua will be one of them, a sincerity that you will be focusing on, and some other ones as well. So, but those will be taught to you in a separate slot. But you need to make the firm intention that actually, oh Allah, I'm going to begin to purify my body. I'm going to begin to do things that are going to make me sincere. I'm going to begin to increase the station of my salah, and then the muraqabah dua that you've been taught as well. So that will be all part of and a dhikr, a litany that you will be given. So you make a firm intention to do those 5 amals, okay? And someone will have a slot dedicated to that. And then, like I said, this is a practical experience, so it's about seeing and tasting. It's not theoretical, and you're going, I'm going to mention what these spiritual centers are. Now, this can be experienced at 3 levels. How many levels? A spiritual experience happens on 3 levels. Each of them feed into the other. So don't, people sometimes get too caught up on this. There will be a thought level, an imagination level, and then the spiritual level. Each of them feed into the other. It's your thoughts that can direct your spirit, and it's the imagination that trains you to start believing what your spirit's going to experience. So no one, when we do these sessions, will have what we call feedback sessions to see how people got through. Sometimes you hear someone says, they go that I didn't see anything. And you're thinking, what, your mind was blank? That's almost an impossibility. No one never not thinks or experiences anything. But know that those are the 3 levels, and we'll develop each of them. It's imagination and spiritual. So, and I'm going to go through this, and we're going to do it together. That's the only way you're going to understand it properly. So methods are always easy. You're knowing your steering wheel, knowing your handbrake. Okay, you have to let go, you have to do this, that's fine. But it's when we do it, we experience it, that you're going to understand. So the first thing that we do, and this is a theme throughout this itikaf, you will notice, we focus on the now and have the end and ends in mind. And the end of all ends is what? It's the infinite pleasure of Allah. That's what you're seeking. That's really ultimately where you want to get to. And what does that do? It leads to one correcting their intention, so that you don't start thinking, oh, wow, I'm going to have an experience. And intentions can get corrupted. But if you keep the main thing in focus, the end of all ends, I want to achieve the pleasure of Allah, then it keeps your intention pure. Then we have the 3 keys that, again, it's echoed constantly in the itikaf. And why the 3 keys? Because they unlock your heart. That Allah is with you, that He's hearing you, and that He's seeing you. So you constantly become into a state of awareness. So things don't just become, just like La ilaha illallah, La ilaha. I mean, I could recite La ilaha illallah and not be in the presence of Allah, not knowing that He's with me, watching me, hearing me. But if I do a La ilaha illallah with that understanding, it's a difference between the heavens and the earth. So what you will do is that, we'll make the intention. I'll mention the 5 amals. You'll have the 3 keys, and then you'll do what's called the prayer of need. So why? Because it reinforces us that this isn't coming from us. We need Allah. Salatul Hajat. Yeah, you pray that, and you say we rely on Allah. We don't know how to do. We're nothing. We rely on Allah. So generally, when we have the next session, before the session starts, so the next slot, which will be at 7:15, I believe. I'll double check it before, or Brother Jabir will mention. You need to have done your 2 rak'ahs beforehand, just like you do for the Hajjud slot. And then now we do what we call amals of protection. Okay, so what are these amals of protection? So we're going to go on to a spiritual journey. If we go into a spiritual journey, the purpose of that journey is what? Any journey has what? It has good things, but you also sometimes have to experience, there might be bandits. I haven't used that term in so long. There might be baddies or bandits on that journey. So you need to make sure you're suitably protected. Yes. So what is that protection for us? We recite Surah Fatiha once, we'll recite Al-Ayatul Kursi once, and then we'll do the last schools 3 times in that order. So Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas, Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas, Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas. We'll do that, and then we'll blow on our hand, and then we'll rub it all over your bodies. Now, I know people are probably frantically writing. You don't need to. Every time, first I just need to understand this, and every time we have a session, we will go through it. The facilitator will mention these things to you again. And then we ask people to enter 3 states. Yes, so this gets you prepared, i.e. the state of humbleness. And then there's different ways, whatever puts you in a state of humbleness, the fact that you're not able to worship Allah, love or fear Him as He should be. So whatever makes you feel that ajzi, that humbleness. And then you come into a state of gratefulness. And then again, think of something that puts you into that state, i.e. the fact that here, when the world is in lockdown, there might be people still in heedlessness, yeah? But look, why has Allah picked you? You should be grateful for that Allah's picked you to be here. You haven't picked yourself. Allah's chosen you to be here to learn this. And then finally, the bit that I keep emphasizing is reliance, like having reliance upon Allah Azza wa Jal. Because nothing can happen without that reliance. Now I'm going to emphasize each of these as we go through them. That's when we do the practice. And then the Mars for starting. So what have we done? We prepared ourselves, made the intentions, done the 3 keys. Then we've done the Salat al-Hajat. Then we've done the Mars of protection. Yeah, we protected ourselves, or got ourselves suitably protected for the journey. Then what did we do? We put ourselves into the right state, i.e. that receiving mode that's going to help us, humbleness, gratefulness, reliance. And then we do the amals to commence. And these amals you will come across as well. And we're doing it for the Muraqabah Dua. And what is it? It's Bismillah. You connect with the name of Allah, so everything is rewardable, but it connects you with Allah. You do astaghfar, asking Allah for forgiveness. Then there'll be durood 3 times to connect you with the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It prevents satanic interference, and again, it just makes you rely upon Allah. There's no might, no strength, except Allah. Now, this is the key piece now I'm going to talk you through. Let me just bring this up. So we have what we call spiritual centers, or Lataifs or Lataifas, Latifa, or but I'm going to call it spiritual centers for the purposes of this particular session. Others may call it Lataifs or Latifa. They're talking about the same thing, but I will call it spiritual center. So the spiritual centers, and there's more. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here there are more spiritual centers, many more, but these are the ones that we're going to be concerned about. Now, our purpose is not the spiritual centers. They play a role in our and people, they play a role. Bear with me. So they all so these spiritual centers, they play a role, but our focus is the role that they need to play for us, for our spirits to transfer. That's all you need to know. That should be sufficient. And we can do a whole discourse separately about the different spiritual centers and how they work. So the first thing we do is when you'll sit into a comfortable position, you'll see the name of Allah in white above you. So exactly how it is on this diagram. You imagine the name of Allah above the head, and you imagine it's in white, and you inhale. Now can everyone please do this? Can you please breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth? Everyone do that 3 times. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out to your mouth. Now your breathing is going to be a constant throughout all of this. So just inshallah, just do that a few times. Can everyone just breathe in through your nose and breathe out to your mouth? Do that a few times so we're okay, good. Just keep doing that, inshallah. And then when you're in this mode, so you've got the name of Allah is in white, you're breathing in through your nose. Imagine the name of Allah, the light coming down into your body. And as you're doing that, so as you're breathing in, the light's all being absorbed in your body. And as you breathe out, you imagine all the darkness, all the stresses in your life, all leaving as you're breathing out. Yes. So when you're breathing in, imagine the name of light of Allah in white is coming in. It's flowing and it's filling your body. And if you just imagine, so let's say as it comes into your head and mind, if there's any darkness, any worry, any stresses, just see it being pushed out, you know, and the whole body becomes white, you know, like you're filling, one of the facilitators always love to say, like a balloon. Yes, you're pushing your body, all the light, you know, right up to your fingertips. Everything is covered in this white light, and all the stresses, darkness is all being pushed out. And all the while you're breathing in through your nose and out from your mouth. And ordinarily, with the facilitator will say that you perhaps do this for say 10 minutes, yeah. But they will tell you now we begin the cleansing process. That was preparing the Lataifs or Lataifs, the spiritual senses, and now we begin the cleansing process. And now you imagine the name of Allah is in red above you, and before I just think to that, let me just. The 7 that you have, let me just mention, because again I can show you the slide, but it's only going to anchor in your mind when we do it. So these are where they're situated. You have one that's below your navel, around the private region. That's your red spiritual center. You have orange one by your belly button, the navel, then a yellow one by your stomach, a green one by your chest, a light blue one by your throat, a dark blue one where your forehead is, and then the white one is just above your head, like where my turban is. Yes, those are the 7 spiritual centers. Now, ordinarily, if you were practical here, I would get a couple of people to stand up and then go through them. We're not going to do that now. And if I ask you to do it on the chat function, you're just going to look at the diagram. But I am going to test you again, but I'll do it as we go through, because the best way of learning, they say, is as we go through the practice, that's as it will stay in your mind more. But just know for the time visually where each of these sits. So we mentioned the preparation, and then I said we got to the first spiritual center, and this is the order of cleansing. So what you first do is you breathe in through, you imagine the name of Allah is in red, and then you breathe in through your nose, and you imagine the light coming from the name of Allah, and you're breathing in through your nose, and you imagine it going straight to the red spiritual center, the one that's below the navel. So as you can see in the diagram, and imagine these spiritual centers like these tubes. And when it comes to the spiritual center, imagine the red light from the name of Allah is cleaning that spiritual center. And as you breathe out through your mouth, imagine all the grime, the dirt, the sin, everything that's associated with that spiritual center is all being pushed out from behind, yeah, from behind that tube. So it's coming at the front of the spiritual center, and all the grime, everything's being pushed out from the back. So that's what you do. And so the name of Allah is in red. So light's descending from the name of Allah, and the name of Allah will be corresponding to the spiritual center. You breathe in that light through your nose, it enters the spiritual center, and then as you're breathing out, it's cleaning that spiritual center. As you breathe out from your mouth, you imagine the dirt, the grime, all being pushed out from behind the back of that spiritual center. And that's the key for, that we'll focus on. So we'll do that for, and you will do that for a few minutes. And then, that's what we spoke about. And then you move on to the next Latifa, or the spiritual center. And we'll spend, depending on who's facilitating, they'll tell you how long to spend on each of these spiritual centers, i.e. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 6 minutes, never 10 minutes, sorry, on how long to do this cleansing. So can I just ask, how are you breathing? Everyone, how will you be breathing? You're breathing in through your? Mashallah. How are you breathing? Someone said in and out, in and out. Yes, absolutely. Mashallah, everyone said through the nose and out of your mouth. It's always good to have someone with a sense of humor. So now we move on. So the method is the same. So now we move on to the next spiritual center. Now we imagine the name of Allah is in red. Absolutely, as you all have said, you breathe in through your nose, and the light comes in through your nose, goes to the spiritual center. Now it's the orange one that's around your navel, your belly button. See the light cleaning it, and as you breathe out, you see the grime, the dirt, all pushing it all out. Yeah, and you're all the while breathing in the light through your nose, and as you breathe out, you imagine it all being pushed out from the back of the spiritual center. And again, we'll do that for however many minutes the relevant ustad or facilitator will mention. And then you do the yellow, and the yellow is located where? You can answer on the chat function. Yeah, well, you don't have to, it's on the screen. So then do the yellow, and that is the stomach region, and the exact same process, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now you keep doing that, and then it's the same for the yellow, and then the green, and the green is in your chest region, the chest area, and you continue to breathe in through your nose. The light comes into the spiritual center, the green one in your chest, it cleans it, and then it pushes out the grime from behind when you breathe out through your mouth. And then you come to the spiritual center in your throat, and you do the same. Yeah. Now, so everyone clear, for red, orange, yellow, green, and light blue, we've been breathing, and the light's been entering in through the nose, and we're breathing in through our nose, we're breathing out through our mouth, and that's been the process. Now, when we come to the spiritual center, the dark blue one, the one that's just behind the eyes, the forehead region, here, when you breathe in, you see the light go straight to the spiritual center. So you don't breathe it in through your nose now. So everything, effectively, the way you should see it, all spiritual centers below your nose, for the light to enter them, you have to breathe in, and you have to see the light come in through your nose. So everything from nose and below all have to go in via your nose. Any spiritual center from the nose above doesn't need to go in through the nose, it goes straight to the spiritual center. That's really simple. That's how you, and then so when we come to the dark blue spiritual center, the one that's in the forehead region and therefore above your nose, here when you breathe in, you breathe in still through your nose, there's no other way you can breathe in, and the light will go directly to the dark blue spiritual center, and the same process. The light will cleanse it and clean it, and as you breathe out, imagine the dirt, the dark, the grime all being pushed out. And then finally, we'll come to the spiritual center at the top of the head, and then that will the same process. You breathe in through your nose, but the light goes directly to the spiritual center. It cleans the spiritual center, and as I breathe out through your mouth, it's all the grime and the dirt is coming out from behind the spiritual center. So that's the cleansing of the spiritual centers. And then now, and we will go through this together. So let me reassure everyone on that. Okay, so I'll just read some of the questions. So we were on the white spiritual center. The name of Allah is in white bubbles. Now, after you cleanse the spiritual centers, now you see the light. So let me sketch. So as you breathe in with your nose, now imagine the light is flowing from the top of the spiritual centers, i.e. the top, and now it's coming in through your entire body, just like it was at the preparation stage. You know, when you were filling your entire body with that white light. Again, that's the same thing that's happening. And as you do this now, when your body is full of this light, white light, and you're continuing to breathe how? In through your nose, out through your mouth. And as you continue to do that, now you begin to imagine your body is disappearing. Yeah, you imagine it's becoming lighter and lighter. And again, the stars and facilitators will talk you through this. I'm re-emphasizing that to you again and again, because it's only when you've done it a few times that it will start clicking into your brain. Because otherwise, you're just going to start panicking. Oh, I won't remember this, I won't remember that. Therefore, the facilitators will prompt you. So you imagine your body is getting lighter and lighter until it eventually the body begins to disappear. The legs disappear, the stomach, the arms, the neck, your head, everything is gone apart from the spiritual centers. And then what you do is the spiritual centers remain, and just your breathing or your breath remains. Yes. And then what you do is one by one, the spiritual centers now disappear as well. So you've got lighter, your body disappeared, and now your spiritual centers disappear one by one until what's left is what we call the golden breath. Yeah, and when you make the spiritual centers disappear, you follow the same order. You start from the bottom, i.e. the red, the orange, the yellow, the green, the light blue, the dark blue, and the white. That's how they all disappear in that order. And then what you're left is what's referred as a golden breath, just effectively your breathing. And what you do now is you now begin to imagine, or you form in your mind, a spiritual body. And that spiritual body can be you dressed in a turban, whatever it might be, whatever you comes to your mind. You imagine that spiritual body, and then what you do is when you are ready, you formed, and it can be a silhouette. What does a silhouette mean? It means like an outline. So you don't have to worry about eyebrows and all that kind of stuff and things like that. You just need to worry about the images there in your mind, and then just help you focus. And then what you do is when you are ready, you take in a deep breath, and you then blow out through your mouth, and you effectively blow your spirit into this other body effectively that you created. That is called the transfer, and that's called the golden breath. And again, you'll be prompted at the stage as to when to do it. Then what you do, and this is absolutely crucial, because you've transferred your body, you transferred your spirit, and it's in the spiritual realm now. This is nice. We're in the spiritual realm, but you need your guide, or you need the person that's going to take you on the journey. And at this point, you find the teacher. And how do you find the teacher? It's very simple. You think of them, and they are. Simple as that. Yes, you do. Does that mean you need to see their perfect image? No, absolutely not. If you are thinking of them, you are with them. That is as simple as it is. Because people get caught up in thinking, but at the moment I've got my eyes closed. Yes, and so when my eyes are closed, literally, when you close your eyes, you can all do it. There's blackness, there's darkness, isn't there? But does that mean I'm not thinking about anything? Of course not. I can still think, imagine, see, even though there's a kind of like a black silhouette there. You can still imagine, you can still begin to see through that. It's just getting past that block. But what you need to do is you need to find the teacher, and you find them by simply thinking or bringing the thought of the teacher. And they may be manifested in different ways. They may be wearing different attire, but you just do that. And then your journey will begin. Yes. And then at the beginning, what will happen is the facilitators will tell you how to they'll guide you on your journey. And I'll give you an example. So that's a teacher that will help people with imagery. Because imagery is everything. Yes, it helps. We're humans are people that are based on imagery. Literacy, words. Yes, we like to hear nice words and so forth, but imagery is what impacts you and implants in your mind. And then the journey begins. You go to different places, stations, and realms. Now, I have timed this session perfectly by the grace of Allah. Well, not perfectly, but very well, to ensure that I would have time to go through and practice this with you. So this is not my focus. So this just gives you, let me go back, sorry, the journey. Yeah. So once you found the teacher, they're the guide. Now, remember, because again, I'm going to keep emphasizing this. When you do these ascensions, you will have a star or facilitator that will prompt you and guide you. They will tell you take your spirit to, so for example, in this scenario, we go to Fez, Morocco, to see, or to Sheikh Abdulaziz Ad-Dabbagh, who is who also set out the spiritual journey. Which, and then you go there, and then from there, your Ustad will then prompt you. They will explain. They will talk you through the journey, where to go next, Medina Park. You'll be with your teacher, etc. Remember, all the time you're with your teacher. And if you get worried, if you think, and some people might start seeing things that might scare them or worry them, you have a very simple emergency button, and that's not open your eyes. Yes, the emergency button is just think of the teacher. Just simply think of them and know then that they're with you, and then go to the Kaaba. And from the Kaaba, people will go and ascend and so forth. And here it just tells you the kind of the adab or certain journey that you could take from going to Sayyidina Abdulaziz Ad-Dabbagh, Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadhili, rahimullah, and then to Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, rahimullah, and then to Sayyidina Imam Hussein radiallahu an, and then Sayyidina Imam Ali bin Abu Talib radiallahu an, etc., and to the Blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the mother of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Amina radiallahu anha, and then to the Kaaba, Masjid al-Aqsa, and then the journey commences. But your facilitator will tell you, they will prompt you. You may go to all of these stations, or you may go to different stations. And then once at the end, you should seek permission from the teacher, send salutations, salam, and then you return and slowly open your eyes. Now, just be mindful here that so you take permission, you'll and then we'll do what's called a feedback session after each of these, just to understand what blockages are people seeing something, are they not seeing something, just to ensure that you're kind of following the process. And we'll do so what is it so you'll get familiar with the order, and that will happen by practice. Verbal clarity, completing the process with imagination. Exactly. So first you'll imagine things, and we're training you. It's like riding a bike. The thought level is just getting on the bike. The imagination level is just beginning to kind of pedal a bit. And then the spiritual experience is when you're just riding your bike, with no thought whatsoever. It's riding now. That's a process you will go through. It's not a process of years and months. It's a process that can happen. As long as you're following the process, it will happen straight away. And the imagination becomes color. And it's just, each of you will have your own experience. I'm going to show you something in particular. Here we are. This is very important. Okay, so these are the responsibilities from the facilitators, from the teacher. They will give you permission to do this. They will teach you the method. They will guide you. They will give you spiritual help on the journey. Company. They will remove obstacles for you. They will interpret your visions, feelings. They will take your spirit to the relevant stations. Present you to the divine presence, to the Prophet ﷺ and the divine presence. And what do? This is very simple. All you need to do is learn and train in the methodology to transfer the spirit to the spiritual body. That's all you just need to learn the method. Like I said at the beginning of this istighfar, you just need to sit back, kick back, and just focus. Everything else will be taught to you. And as long as you focus and just follow, keep it very simple. I appreciate you've seen a lot. I've shown you a journey. Your mind is going to be bombarded with questions and thoughts and amazement and is this really possible? All of that will be coming to you. But the focus, I'll keep repeating again and again, is actually all of that. And that's fine. Let that be going swirling around in your head. But fundamentally, focus on the bits we ask you to focus. Focus on the bits. This is what you need to do. And let's do those. Simply just follow that process and let the experience speak. Don't let yourself speak. Oh, well, what about this? Oh, I read this, or I know this. No, you just do what you're being told, just like a driving instructor said, and then worry about everything else afterwards. And these are some obstacles to the path. And again, you just make an intention that you're going to rectify these. Are you having false assumptions? Having haram rizq, negative dealings with creation, not submitting to the teacher. This is really, really important that I mentioned at the beginning. It's the teacher that set us this path. So that's the person you should be focusing on to take you through, not getting confused about, but this sheikh, that sheikh. That's fine. For whatever realm that they deal with, that's fine. In this course, and this on this spiritual journey, there is a teacher. That should be your focus. That is your guide. I can't stress that enough. Yeah. If you have any obstacles on your journey, etc., they're the guide. It's through them that everything will happen. And then yeah, expecting things to happen too quickly, negative thinking. We already experienced that. It's normal. People saying, "Oh, I can't believe I can do this." No, you can't do it, but by the fadl of Allah and relying upon Him, anything is achievable. Yeah, and you can read the rest of that that's here. And then it goes back to what we said right at the beginning: thought level, imagination level, spiritual level. Just reading some of the questions. Okay, so some people are already having certain experiences already just by as they've gone through this and they've done this. So let me now, we're going to go through this together now, everyone. Oh, here we are. Okay. So I want everyone just to just look at the screen. Can everyone see? Yeah, you can. So first, this is just focusing on where the spiritual centers are. So like I said, there's 4 spiritual centers, and someone's asked, can they go to certain stations straight away? No, the adab is to follow the guide, full stop. Yeah, let's not try to jump from A to Z. Let's go through A, B, C. There's a wisdom in all of this. That's right. So first and foremost, can I just get everyone to just look at where spiritual centers are, so you're familiarizing yourself. And then what I'm going to ask is, so remember what we said, that at the beginning, there's you can imagine this journey, you can go through this journey. There's 3 levels that you experience it on. What are those 3 levels? Please use the chat function just so I'm. So I said to you, there's 3 levels that you can experience this journey on. Yeah, thought, imagination, spirit. Absolutely. Yeah. 2 of them are within your own control, i.e., thought and imagination, and the spirit level is when it's I've said a number of times, spiritual centers, Lataifs, those words will be used interchangeably. I will keep referring to spiritual centers. So inshallah, for those of you who have been listening throughout, you'll note that made that point a number of times. So the thought level, the imagination level, and then you have the spiritual level. Thought and imagination are in your control. Spiritual is not. And then I went through the preparation, the mindset. What was a mindset? So again, I'm asking people to use the chat function. So to make sure you're, yes, very good. 3 keys, absolutely. And have them, what's your intention? The end of all ends, i.e. the infinite pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, are there anything that you should physically be doing beforehand? Yeah. Salat al-Hajat, very good. Yeah, so you do the prayer of need beforehand. Don't ever do it during the sessions because we won't have time. Do it before the sessions, and you're relying. Everything is happening on relying on Allah Azza wa Jal. Yeah, and then you have the 3 keys. You're absolutely right, and that Allah's with you, Allah's watching you, Allah's hearing you. The reason we do the intentional all the end of all ends, the divine pleasure of Allah, because it keeps one's intention correct. And then I said there's amars of protection. And what are those amars of protection? Yeah. So someone use the chat function. Just tell me, what are those amars of protection? Use the chat function, please. I won't be looking at the Q&A. Yes. Surah Fatiha once, the Kursi once. The last goes 3 times. In that order, Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas, Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas. I said blow on your hands and rub it all over your body. Very good. MashaAllah, that's very good. And then there were certain states that you had to enter, to get you to certain mindsets. What were those 3 states, those 3 mindsets? MashaAllah, very good. Humble, gratitude, and reliance. Yes. Bring yourself into a state of humbleness, and whatever works for you, whatever makes you feel humble, bring that thought, mind. I mean, the examples where, Allah, I'm not able to worship you, are again things that make you grateful. Allah, I don't deserve these blessings. And then reliance, that Allah, it's not us that are traveling, but you're traveling. MashaAllah, I'm really, really impressed. I mean, from the, the 131 participants, getting answers from all different people. So it's not like being in class and the same person answering again and again. MashaAllah, many people are. That's really good. And then, so we've done that. We've gotten to those 3 states, and then we start with the starting amals. And these starting amals will come up again and again. The Bismillah, connecting with Allah, the Astaghfar 3 times, Durood 3 times, and La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, to prevent any shaitanic interference. And then we'll come to the Lataifs, yes? And then, as I said, so let me now, I purposely didn't I had the slide differently, so, and then we come to the Lataifs. And then, as I said, you start with the white one, and you imagine the name of Allah is in white, and it's all coming into you, and it's pushing out your worries. And how are you breathing? And please don't say in and out, like someone said before. How are you breathing? You're breathing in from your nose, absolutely, out from your mouth. And when you're breathing in from your nose, imagine all the light is coming, the white light, into your body, and it's filling your entire body. And what is it pushing out? What's being pushed out as you breathe out? Dirt, yes, your worries, your stresses, everything. All of that is being pushed out, inshallah. So that will happen, and then we start the and that will happen for whatever duration the start of facilitator will tell you, and then we start the cleansing process. And now, without me going up to which, so you breathe in from your nose and you clear the spiritual center. Now tell me, which of the spiritual centers do you breathe in through for your nose? Yeah, so you're always breathing through your nose. That's right. And then the light will enter into your nose for each spiritual center, that which is below your nose. So the red spiritual center, orange, yellow, green, and light blue are your throat. When you breathe in, you're always breathing the light into your nose directly to the spiritual center. It's cleansing it, and as you breathe out, it pushes out. However, all spiritual centers above your nose, that's the dark blue and the white, when you breathe in through your nose, the light goes directly to the spiritual center. Inshallah. Okay. So then on that note, now I'm going to ask, let me just go to, let me find the slide that I'm comfortable pausing it on. Okay. Yeah, let's do, okay, so I'm going to now, inshallah, ask all the participants just to close your eyes for a moment. Yeah. So everyone close your eyes, inshallah. And imagine now, firstly, make your intention, i.e. the end of all ends. So firstly, ignore all, bring yourself into the presence, that Allah's with you, Allah's watching, Allah's hearing you, that you're doing this for the infinite pleasure of Allah. That's what's focus, that's what your focus is going to be, inshallah. And then if you had time, we would have done Salat al-Hajjat. That's fine, we're not doing that now. And then you do the preparation amal. So everyone now recites Surah Fatiha once, Ayatul Kursi once, and the 3 Quls 3 times. Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas, Ikhlas, Falaq, Nas. Inshallah, that's what you would do actually. You don't have to recite it now. I just wanted you to. And then you enter the 3 states. So each of you, I just want you to spend a moment just thinking of what will make you enter the state of humbleness. Yeah, that you're not able to worship Allah as He deserves to be worshipped. You're not even able to fear Allah as He should be feared. And then think of something that will enter you or into a state of gratefulness. And then the real key here is the reliance. That Allah, we can't do anything from ourselves. Everything is done based upon your reliance. And then we do the starting amals, which would be Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And the stars will talk you through them. Astaghfar 3 times. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Then Durood 3 times. Sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You do that 3 times. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah 3 times. Yes? And now I want you to begin now. And this is the bit I want everyone to do now. I want you to breathe in. Just take a few moments of breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. That's good. Now I've got my eyes closed. I want you to keep your eyes closed as well. And I just want you now to just see the name of Allah in white above you. If you can't see it, if you can't imagine it, you can at least think it. The name of Allah is in white above you. As you're breathing in through your nose and out from your mouth, so you just carry on doing the breathing and I'll talk you through it. You imagine the light is coming from the name of Allah. It's coming in from the top of your head. It's penetrating your entire body. And as it starts filling your body, any darkness, worry, stress is all being pushed out as you breathe out. In through your nose, out from your mouth. So that's the name of Allah in white. Your whole body is now being consumed with this white light, the name of Allah. That's good. Then you would imagine the name of Allah in red. All the while you're still breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And now as the light descends from the name of Allah, now you breathe the light in through your nose and straight to the spiritual center that's below your navel in the private region. And then you see the light cleaning that spiritual center. And as you breathe out through your mouth, it's pushing out all the grime and the dirt. So all you should be focusing on the light in the name of Allah in red is coming in through your nose as you breathe in through your nose. It's cleaning the spiritual center. And as you breathe out through your mouth, the grime, the dirt is all exiting from behind the spiritual center. You're breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. Then the name of Allah will be in orange. And you continue to breathe the light in, the orange light in through your nose to the orange spiritual center that's in the belly button region. The light is cleansing that spiritual center. And as you breathe out, all the dirt and the grime is being pushed out. Then the name of Allah will turn to yellow. And now you're breathing the light in from the name of Allah in yellow through your nose into the yellow spiritual center that's by your stomach. And all the while you're breathing out from your mouth. Then the name of Allah will go into green, and you'll breathe the green light in through your nose to the green spiritual center, which is the chest region. Then the name of Allah, and you'll do this for as ever long the Ustad will conduct the session for. And then you breathe. Then the name of Allah will turn to light blue. All the while, all of you continue to breathe in through your nose and out from your mouth, and the light blue light will come in through your nose to the spiritual center by your throat. And then the next two spiritual centers, now when the name of Allah is now in dark blue, purpley color, and when you breathe in through your nose, the light enters the spiritual center directly around the forehead region. And it's cleansing it, and then you breathe out through your mouth. And then finally, when the name of Allah turns white, the spiritual center, the light will enter directly into the spiritual center at the top of your head. But you continue to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Yes. So once you've done that, then the start, and you keep your eyes closed, please, everyone, just because it will help you with the focus and just understanding the method. Then the Ustad or the relevant person will say, now the name of Allah continues to be in white. And now, just right at the beginning, now the whole light is penetrating from top of your body right to the bottom, consuming your body. The entire body will be full of this white light. And then you begin to feel, think, imagine your body becomes lighter and lighter. And then it begins to disappear. The feet, the legs, everything, until you're just left with those spiritual centers. And then they will begin to disappear one by one in the order from the bottom. So the red will go first, then the orange, then the yellow, then the green, then the light blue, then the dark blue, and then the white. So that all that is left is just your breath. And then you will construct or make or imagine a spiritual image of yourself, like a copy. Doesn't have to be detailed, just an outline is sufficient. And then when you will get told, and all the while and you'll be prompted by the stars, breathe in through your nose and out from your mouth. And then when they say take the golden breath, you then you imagine it's just your spirit, it's in that breath, and then you will breathe deep breath out into your spiritual body. And once you're into your spiritual body, then you find the teacher. Just bring the thought of the teacher to yourself, and that's it. And then you're with them. Now, some of you will see, some of you won't, some of you will just see darkness, whatever it is, you just carry on. Yes, you don't start thinking, have I blown my breath, have I not? The facilitator will say, if you've transferred, they will say all participants, and you carry on. Don't open your eyes, don't get distracted, don't start thinking, I didn't see anything. All you do is just think of the teacher, you're with the teacher, and then the facilitator will take you onto the journey, that guided tour. Now, if you start thinking, oh, am I transferred? Haven't I transferred? I can't see anything. Then it's just gonna disorientate your spirit. It's just gonna keep coming back to its body. Whereas if you just go with the flow, you're being trained. That's what's happening. You're being trained bit by bit, inshallah. Okay, so now I'm gonna open this up to questions. Does anyone have any questions about the method that I've just gone through? Oh, good question. So someone just asked a question which I think I answered right now at the last bit, which was, what did I say? So you don't get caught up about whether you have or haven't transferred, especially at the beginning sessions. When the facilitator says you've transferred, then assume that you've transferred. Yes, that's simple. That's as simple as it is for you. So inshallah, so if you've got any questions, inshallah, mention them now. Yes, at the beginning, you always need your guide to do the spiritual journey. Someone asked, what if you don't know what they look like? So I'll put the pictures up, and we'll do the pictures again as well. So before we do the next session, we'll make sure the pictures are up of the guide. But just know that, look, you don't need, I've told you the guide is Sheikh Ahmad Dabag. It's just sufficient for you to think. Yeah, because we're talking about spiritual realities here. I'm not asking you to know their biography, etc. Now remember, the thought level is just simply bringing a thought, thinking about something. Imagination is when you are constructing an image, more detail, and the spiritual level is that actually now you just simply think, and then the spirit takes over. It's not being forced to think things; it's seeing, it's observing the journey itself. Now, you will need guidance. Some people will say, oh, I don't know if that's my spirit, if that's me. You'll be given that guidance by the stars. That's their job. They're supposed to tell you what experience you're having. Okay, so yes, you'll always need a guide for a spiritual journey. Always. Spiritually, you will always need that guide. Yeah, so always remember the spiritual centers, their exit points are behind. So it's like a tube. The light enters from the front and it exits from behind. Someone's asked me the question, one of the things I said from the beginning, what's the purpose, significance of the colors? There is a purpose and there is significance to all of this, the colors and the purpose. However, the point that I said, is that's not what the focus is here. So I'm not going to tell you what the purpose of the clutch is, the purpose of the steering box is, the purpose of the steering wheel is, or the ignition. All you need to know is that you need to put the ignition in, you need to hold the steering wheel, you need to check your mirrors for the car to drive. That at the moment is the fundamental purpose of what the method is. Yes, why the steering wheel works as it does, why the steering wheel is usually in black, why the gearbox is situated where there's reasons and there's logic to it. But for me, when I'm driving and I'm sitting with my driving instructor, all I care about at that moment is, tell me what I need to do, the method for me to drive. That's exactly what I'm telling you here. It's the method for your spiritual transfer. Yes, there is theory behind this. There is significance of the spiritual centers. There is significance of the colors. There is significance of how they operate. But at the moment, for your purposes and my purposes, it's just sufficient that we know what we need to do. Someone asked a question. Then. Please don't use the chat function to ask questions. Use a Q&A. Yes, when you're thinking of your guide, know, think, believe that he is with you. Okay, are there any other questions? Because I'm going to move on just to do a very brief summary on the Amaz for Laylatul Qadr. No, so someone's asked, look, at the moment, they said, do we need to facilitate to do the Amaz all the time? No, you don't. At the moment, for the Itikaf period, what everyone should do, because you've got time between now and the next session, is go through the methodology that I've done. So close your eyes, go through, think about where the Lataifs are. Don't get into don't get yourself into a panic. Like, I don't remember things. I mean, I'm the kind of person that has to read something 100 times before I remember, but I'm the person that when I practice it, then I do remember. And what did I say? The facilitators will prompt you every time we have one of these sessions. So that's not what you should get caught up in, but where you can practice, you should. When and how often do we do this? We'll explain that. That'll come as part of the 5 Amaz. If you go to places you cannot recognize, but can describe, and people you see but don't know, that's actually part of the spiritual experience. You will see things that you might not recognize, but your spirit is traveling to places. I mean, there's a lot of places that I haven't traveled to in the spiritual realm that you haven't. So you will probably not recognize a lot more things than you do recognize, but that's what the facilitators and the ustads will help with. And when you do your feedback, it's essential. I will tell you that now. When we have the next sessions, you'll be asked to give feedback, so you can type what you've seen. It's as important to say what you've seen and what you found easy as it is to say what you found difficult. So that way you can, they can tell you, give you tips on what to do. So someone said, so yes, you can be scared. Someone asked me the question, you can be scared, and it overlays with another question someone asked about, shaitanic interference. Of course, that's part of what can happen, but what did we say? The first thing is we do the protection Amaz, but then what was your emergency button? Use the chat function to answer, please. What was the emergency button that I said? If things get worried, you get scared, what do you do? Yes, think of the teacher, absolutely, absolutely. Don't close it, or don't open your eyes, just think of the teacher, whether you see them or don't see them. Okay, I'm just gonna do the go through I think that answers. Okay, that's good. MashaAllah, it seems like generally on the method, does anyone have any questions on the method? Because that seems quite straightforward, MashaAllah. And based on the chat responses, everyone, oh wow, someone said that during the practice, they actually met the teacher and went into Masjid al-Aqsa. SubhanAllah. I mean, it's powerful. Everyone's spirit is obviously different, inshallah. So now I'm just going to briefly just run through the Laylatul Qadr Amaz. MashaAllah. Okay, that's good feedback. I'm getting people are saying. So everyone, tonight is a odd night. So therefore, I'm just going to pull up the Laylatul Qadr. This will be sent to everyone, by the way, the Laylatul Qadr Amaz. So don't worry if you don't. Okay, so all of you will see this, the virtues of worshipping in the Laylatul Qadr. And so tonight is an odd night, and as it's an odd night, there's a very good chance that tonight, from Ramadan, it could be the night of Laylatul Qadr. Yes, it's the night that's mentioned in the Holy Quran, and it's associated with Ramadan. Obviously, we have the surah Inna anzalnahu fi Laylatul Qadr, And but what I'm just going to focus on now, it's better than 1,000 months. There's many reward for it, and there are particular miles that you want to do. But there's two things. I will talk you through the miles, and then I will talk you through the mindset. Neither of which will take very long, and we will be done by 4:15. Subject to any other questions people might have. But so where are we? So, everyone should be able to see the screen. Can everyone see the Laylatul Qadr screen, please? Just shout on the chat function, please. So if you can see, can you just use the chat function and let me know if you can see my screen that has the Laylatul Qadr amals? Okay, for some reason I can't. Yes, sorry, I can see now. Okay, so now remember, the night of Laylatul Qadr is about the night of power. So each of us should be thinking, well, what's the power that you're given for this night? What is the power that you should be seeking? Is it just a night that you can say, okay, I found the night, I did some amals, that's it, bang, I've banked some amals and done some worship, and that's it, I'm done for the rest of till next year? Or actually, is our mindset a bit more deeper than that, thinking actually there's something clearly that happens this night, there's clearly power that happens this night, there's clearly spiritual blessings, physical blessings that happen that should enable me to do something, should enable me to change my life. And it's that mode, that mindset that I need you to get into before you get into the amals. That actually, when I turn my cup the right way up and everything, but this night of power is going to have immense power. Immense power. It's coming from Allah, the divine. And then all you need to do is just capture that power and then energize it to change your life. That's what you're doing. And we've given you an outlet. We've told you here in this Istiqlal, all these different sessions that are happening, all of them which will come together so that you can change your life, not so that you can go around and say, oh, look, I learned what breaks my wudu, what doesn't break my wudu, I know a few more hadiths. La. That's not what we're about. We're about you practically changing your life from now till the end of your life, basically, end times. So you need to tap into this night of power. That's the mode of that, what you want to think about. The supplication that Aisha radiallahu anha asked the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what do I do if I find this night? So there may be depending, there may well be a dhikr majlis tonight as well. So you want to know. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Aisha radiallahu anha that if you find this night, there's a particular supplication to do. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. And it's there, Allah, you are forgiving, you love forgiveness, so forgive me. And then what the amals are this. Now these can be performed any time from Maghrib. So you have time from Maghrib till 1:30, don't we? We all have that slot free. So the amals are that you do 2 rak'ah salatul tawbah, really with repentance, begging, regretting, submitting, asking, to change one's ways from darkness. So salatul tawbah, really asking Allah for forgiveness for your shortcomings, for your sins, and for not following the Prophet of Allah, not following your guide if you have one. And then 2 rak'ah salatul shukr, and you really thanking Allah for the fact that He's even enabled you to do salatul shukr, enabled you to be of the ummah of the Prophet, enabled you to be given this guidance, enabled you to have a teacher that's allowing you to understand everything that you're understanding. And then you all will be given this sheet, but I'm just doing a summary. Then you will be given salatul istikhara. You do 2 rak'ah salatul istikhara and ask Allah to guide you to His pleasure. Ask Allah for Allah. Ask Him to guide you to the secrets of the Prophet's footsteps. Ask you to give you a guide that will take you to all of this. And 2 rak'ah salatul hajat, i.e. the prayer of need, and beg Allah for His closeness, for His pleasure, whatever you need. This is the night to ask. So when you do these rak'ahs, this is what should be recited in each of them, to the extent that you know the surahs and you can. This is Surah Fatiha once, Ayatul Kursi once, Surah Qadr 7 times, and then Surah Ikhlas 7 times. And then after you've done that, then after you completed those 2 rak'ah prayers, hajat, shukr, tawbah, istihara, and then tawbah, then you do these 33 times astaghfirullah, it's there, 33 times Allahumma innaka afuwun, the supplication, and then 3 times Ya Allah Ya Rahman Ya Rahim, and 33 times, sorry, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, and then durood. Yeah, and then this is the thing. Now, when you're doing this dhikr, again, it goes back to mindset. What should you be thinking? So it doesn't just become a litany of the tongue. You should imagine yourself leaving this life, walking towards Allah. Your body, you know, becomes the letters, what you're requesting, what you're asking Allah. You know, imagine it becomes you know, what you're writing. What is it that you want to Allah to say? What you want to say to Allah this blessed night? And then once you've done that, then you can do meditation for the name of Allah for about 10 minutes. And again, just read the text, what you should be imagining. That's what's really important. Calling Allah. We want your dhikr, your amaz on this night to really be engaging with Allah, so you can truly, the power can penetrate you. And then, to the extent you have time, inshallah, do the dhikr as well, Allah, Allah, for 20 minutes. And again, the mark sheet will tell you what you should be imagining. And then 20 minutes of the supplication, Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. And then again, imagine you're in prostration. Imagine that you're begging Allah. We want that. We want the words that come out of your mouth, we want them to connect to worship and ibadat. And then there's munajat that you can do as well. Now, look, if you don't have time, obviously you've got time between now and you'll have some time now till the next slot, in about an hour's time, and then you have time from Maghrib, from Maghrib onwards, when the night of power may come, from Maghrib up to 1:30, you'll have time to perform these amaz. If you don't manage to perform all of them, you can also do them after Fajr as well. So inshallah, you have time then. And then inshallah, I think the Ustad Ghaffar will send these to all the participants, so you have all of this. On that note, inshallah, I'm going to bring this session to a close. Can I just ask if there's any other questions? Let me see that I can. Someone asked a really good question that comes up all the time. If you don't know Surah Qadr, what should you read? Just read Surah Ikhlas again 7 times. Yeah. Someone's asked, there will be every night at 1:30 there will be a practical ibadat session. So this tonight at 1:30, please be ready. There will be a majlis tonight. Yeah. Will we have time to do these amaz? Look, like with these amaz, take a step back. I rather don't panic yourself. I won't get time to do them. Start to do them, and that's fine. That's the main thing. But have the right mindset. That's the thing that you have to walk away with. The mindset that you want to access the night power, so that Allah can allow it to change your life. Yeah. Yes, meditation munajat it's having conversing with Allah when you're doing this on your own and don't remember the code. So we'll come back again on methodology each time we do the collective session. The ustads will go through it. They'll prompt you. MashaAllah. Many of you have had experiences just on the practice session. That's fine. Don't let those experiences concern you in any way whatsoever. Whether you felt light, whether you saw something, all of these experiences that you're having, that's fine. Look, we will have the practical sessions. You'll go through the practical sessions, then we'll have a feedback session where you will discuss your experiences, and the facilitators and the stars will help and assist you. Yeah. And remember, we're talking about the spiritual realm. You know, the spirit isn't bound by time, isn't bound by space. It can be in a number of places at the same time. So someone asked, what languages do you need to speak when you meet the blessed personalities? Whatever language comes to mind, that's it. Sometimes you'll converse with personalities without there being anything. It's just imprinted onto your spirit, inshallah. Okay, so I don't have any further questions, inshallah, on that. So I'm going to, one final thing, language of the heart. No, so people, if you're in different localities, if you can't join a slot because of localities, then of course you can read the, you can do the recordings and be given the recordings. Where you can do the amaz, you should, inshallah. That's the advice. Okay, I think Brother Jabat Jabir, I think, unless there's any closing comments, we're going to bring this to a close.
Jazakallah khair, Ustad Majid. Now, inshallah, we have approximately an hour up until the next session, which will begin at 5:15 p.m. So, inshallah, use this time to refresh your body, refresh your mind. If you need to, go and refresh your wuzu. And before the next session, if you can, it's always a positive. Try to read 2 rakat of hajat and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open up your heart and your minds, because this is the keynote session of today, where our teacher Sheikh Ahmed Dabbar will be delivering a discourse, and inshallah there will be chances to ask questions at the end. So inshallah, you have approximately an hour. Try to be at your computers or your phones for 5:10, meaning you are 5 minutes early, and try to be in the best frame of mind. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
جل الله في كل كون الله